Apparently, that, I don't know, bothered Rose for some reason. Her husband having a mistress. The baby, Lilith, contracted typhoid at the time, and that combined with Rose just being kind of distraught by, the whole, I don't know, life thing that was going on to her at the time.
That her life is a toilet.
Yeah.
She has put up with an inordinate amount of real hinky stuff up to this point.
It's true.
And her reward is terrifying infidelity and typhoid.
For her baby. And the poor baby dies of typhoid. And she, of course, turns to the bottle, and Crowley doesn't care much for how she's acting these days. He's kind of moved on. So he divorces her, and, obviously she goes mad.
And here's the fun fact, actually. He didn't divorce her until her alcoholism, she was going to have to be committed. It was actually killing her. She was going to die from it. And what was less embarrassing, and Aleister was, I kind of met her halfway on this, and he was like, well, because it was him who initiated the divorce, because finally her alcoholism was getting embarrassing. Yeah. Not his philandering and his running around in Tutankhamun's headpiece. That stuff's fine.
That's all right.
It's the fact that she can't stop drinking that's really becoming a problem. But in this kind of like reverse magnanimous moment, he's like, you know what though? Just tell everyone I've been cheating on you. We'll officially put it down as to my infidelity so as to spare you from the embarrassment of being an alcoholic. Which is, I think, at that point called just being British at that point in history.
That's, keeping a stiff upper lip or something, right?
So he actually, they filled out the paperwork inciting the reason being Aleister Crowley's infidelity as the reason for the divorce. And he didn't care.
No. He in all of the things that he did, he's kind of like hit it and quit it. Like, he does things to the nth degree, and then he's done with them, and he moves on.
Hardest working magician in Britain.
And entertainment. But Rose went mad. I think she died from that in an institution eventually from all that. During it was around this time he founds the Argentum Astrum, the AA as they would call it.
So for those of you keeping track, this is his third found order or fourth? Well, fourth that he's been in, third that he's founded.
Second, well, no, he didn't found the Golden Dawn.
Right.
That was already founded before him. This is actually the first one that I mentioned a while ago. He used the Book of the Law to write, and it was
okay. So this is an offshoot of the first thing.
Yeah. So
skipping the yoga years and going straight back. Gotcha.
Sure. This is kind of how his life worked too, by the way. But it's a Thelemic magical fraternity, and of course, it's not a we love the devil and everybody should be murdered. This is for the pursuit of light and knowledge, obviously.
And it is worth noting also that one of my favorite parts of researching this was going to the Christian conspiracy websites. Who are, as you might imagine, not big fans of Mr. Crowley.
Oh, really?
Yeah, weirdly enough, not huge fans, and they love to talk about how he one of the websites, the way they phrased it was he indulged in child sacrifice, like one would indulge
in chocolate fondue.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's going to go straight to my hips. I'll bleed that kid out. But he actually, in truth of fact, even in his lesser magical rituals that required blood or animal sacrifice, really he avoided it at all costs, and only very rarely would actually sacrifice an animal. He was actually very much against it. It really skeeved him out, and so that was something that he always avoided at all costs. He still did it occasionally, but it's not something he was terribly down with, which I thought was surprising.
The weird thing is, there's a ton of stuff on Aleister Crowley, and of course we're not going to touch on probably even half of it. All said and done, we're going to try to give you, a little portrait of him.
A sexy portrait. Maybe he's going to be on a chaise lounge.
Sure.
Like one of your French girls.
But yeah, it's the stuff that I found anyway. Half of it was saying, he's he's not into this much sacrifice, not human sacrifice, very little animal sacrifice and things like that. The other half is, I guess it must be biased or something, because it is like, oh man, he just went out and killed a kid a day. He killed goats for dinner, and had a dog that he had sex with after he killed it. And I mean, it's like half the stuff says he was against it.
And I saw the dog, and the dog waved at me, and it was sad.
So it's a lot of stuff to chew on, but as far as the sacrifice stuff, it's I don't know. It's one of those things where I think you had to be there to truly say whether or not this guy indulged in this stuff.
But when you become like this, I mean, and even at this point, he's pretty known for what he's doing. I mean, he's able to travel in social circles. People know what he does, what he's into. And he's got a small amount of notoriety for it. I mean, he puts together, he uses it to fund his mountain climbing expeditions that he still likes to do, and he's building this. And when that's your thing, when you bill yourself in Victorian England as the Beast 666, and that's what I do, you're going to be a polarizing figure for a while.
Sure.
People are going to have an opinion, and it's going to inform everything else you hear about him. Which is exactly what happens. So of course you're going to get a ton of contradictory information, and one of the beauties of doing this is that I just pick and choose whatever I feel like. Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, and the thing about this is he really played that up too, because I read a lot of stuff that said he very much played into that idea that people had of him in order to shock people, and if you were not even close to his intelligence, he would just play you like a fiddle, saying shocking things, doing all this stuff to really get a rise out of you. And, if he could use it for monetary gain, sure, why not? So that was one of the kind of huckster things that I think we were talking about, Americanizing.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. Again, when you bill yourself as the greatest occultsman, you have to... You have to do what every other person who is of any faith and relying on it, you have to find a way to be able to pay your rent with it.
Yeah. So in the AA, which Argentium Master, I don't know if I mentioned this, that's Latin for Silver Star. It was based a lot on the Golden Dawn, in that it had 11 grades of orders inside ranks, hierarchy. And the prep stage and two of the three orders that they had the little subsections for were from the Golden Dawn itself. So it wasn't totally like, oh, here's this fresh idea that's on the world that we're going to change the world with.
And it's weird because when I first read that, when I read about him founding these things, and he took portions of the Golden Dawn, at first that just seemed lazy and hucksterish. But on the other hand, if you look at it from his perspective, that he thinks he's doing a form of scientific research.
Yeah.
He thinks that and so why wouldn't you take established practices by other scientists that you have already worked with and said, well, I got really great results from these experiments, so of course I'll incorporate them. But
sure.
I'm pushing the boundaries of science. And every time for this entire podcast I say science, I hope you hear the asterisk at the end after. And at the end of the podcast, I have to say asterisk, not actually science.
Disclaimer. Yeah, it was. It's also he was he was a Freemason as well.
Well, of course he was,
because who
Why
wasn't?
not?
But that was also kind of a funny thing. I won't get too much into that, but that was one of the things where he traveled to Mexico one year and met somebody there that was a Freemason, and this guy was actually high ranking and was like, you know what, you're a 33 degree Mason now, and then like the actual Scottish Rite Masons were like, this guy's kind of crazy. We're not gonna.
Yeah, you did it in Mexico.
I've
done the count.
I've done the count, laddie. You can't do that. No, this guy's crazy.
We do not like your Tijuana Masons.
So all these ranks that he was attaining in Freemasonry pretty much didn't count, because the